Hello, I'm Pat Frew, Executive Director of the Covington Business Council and your host for Getting Down to Business. My guest today is Katie Meyer. She's the Executive Director of Renaissance Covington. And this program is a regular monthly program dedicated to keeping you posted on business groups in Covington and Kenton County that are making their mark. And Renaissance Covington is certainly one of those groups. Katie, welcome to the program today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Great. Now let's get down to business. What makes downtown a good place to do business?
Well, downtown Covington, as most people know, has been evolving a lot over the past couple years. We have the most beautiful inventory of historic buildings. We have nice streetscapes, and I think what sets us apart as a place to do business is the unique architecture, the authentic spaces, the sense of community, and the opportunity. We know that as you go down Madison Avenue, as you start to go south, there's a number of new properties under development, like Orleans is doing some smaller retail. We have some bigger retail areas that are built out and ready to move in, and then we've got some large development opportunities. So with the creative and unique spaces, the number of opportunities, some incentives in the city, there's just so many reasons that downtown Covington is a great place to open a business.
And tell us specifically where Renaissance Covington covers in the downtown area.
So we are focused on the Central Business District, which is, basically the backbone would be Madison Avenue, and then to the northeast, the Roebling Point area, we work there as well, and then along Pike Street, Scott Boulevard. So what it was historically our Central Business District.
Great, great. And how has Covington evolved over the years, and what can we expect in the upcoming years?
So we've seen, obviously some major new investments in the Hotel Covington and Braxton, in the Roebling Point area with, Smoke Justice and Molly Malone's, and that has changed the dynamic downtown. If you go downtown on a Friday or Saturday night, it looks drastically different than just a couple years ago. There are people on the streets, there are people in the businesses, and then during the day we still have, a number of retailers who are open, our county buildings and our city buildings. But I think, what's really exciting about the future is that the momentum is continuing. It hasn't stopped. Particularly right now, the Duveneck Square project has 108 residential units in phase 1 that's going to bring so much energy, as well as the county building having another 100 or so residential units. We're just going to see so many more people living downtown, which brings that vibrancy from first thing in the morning to late at night, so it's very exciting.
I know another thing that's really important with downtown is walkability, and I consider you an expert on that subject when we talk about those things. We're great groups that partner together a lot. Talk about that and talk about what Covington offers in that sense, because that is another one of our strengths as well, I think.
Yes, absolutely. That idea that we have storefronts lining our streets that make it a pleasurable experience to walk down and see as the architecture evolves. We have so much so close. Even walking across the bridge to Cincinnati is just less than a mile from the Central Business District. Along the way, you've got the Roebling Point District, and it's really a short walk just over to Main Strasse Village as well. So within a walkable area, there's so many different experiences that you can have, from dining, shopping, and nightlife.
Right. I've heard a lot of people talk about Covington being the next OTR, and I'm sure you've heard that too. What are your thoughts on that, and what kinds of things even beyond OTR do you think that Covington offers that makes it even more unique?
I do think, that comparison is, I do hear that a lot. I think that we're a little bit different in that our progress has been more incremental, a little bit slower, but it's a very sustainable model. It's one at a time. It's small developers. It's small business owners. There's not we haven't had a whole lot of outside investment to spur the growth. It's really just been a lot of hardworking people to get us to where we are. And so I think for the long run, that means we're going to be in really good shape in terms of the economic health of our downtown.
Yeah, what are some of the things that Renaissance Covington, I know you do a lot of long-range planning and some of the things going on there. What are some of the things that you're trying to do even to get outside of your comfort zone, despite all the honors and plaudits that you're receiving? We'll get to more about that a little bit later, but talk about some of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. We are constantly working to use arts and culture and to drive new residents and new businesses in the downtown. But I think the new area that we're starting to work in that I'm really excited about, but to your point, it's a little bit uncharted, is the conversation around smart cities. So in particular, we're working on a big public Wi-Fi project and integrating technology into the downtown, which is really exciting, with the opportunities for wayfinding, for communication, for having strong public spaces where you can sit out and do your homework or have a meeting. So that's on the horizon, and it's a very exciting project.
Great. We need to take a break. We will be right back. We're talking with Katie Meyer. She's the Executive Director of Renaissance Covington, and we'll continue our conversation after these messages.
Hello. Yes. Can I ask a few questions about the apartment on Park Street?
What was your name?
My name is Juan Hernandez.
It's been rented.
Oh, it's gone. Hello, my name is Sanjay Kumar. I am calling about the apartment on Park Street.
It's not available.
Not available? Hello, my name is Tyrone Washington. I'm calling about the apartment on Park Street.
Just been rented.
Hello, I am Chen Ling. My name is Khalid bin Ali. I'm Tuan Vo. Hello, my name is Moshe Goldberg. I use a wheelchair. It's gone. Not available. All right. Thank you. Yes, hello, my name is Graham Wellington. I'm calling about the apartment for rent on Park Street. Is that still available?
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Really?
Housing discrimination is illegal. If you think you've been a victim because of your race, color, national origin, sex, religion, disability, or family status, call us. Fair housing. It's not an option. It's the law.
Hi, and welcome back to Taking Care of Business. I'm here with Renaissance Covington Executive Director Katie Meyer. And Katie, tell us a little bit about what Renaissance is.
Yeah, absolutely. Renaissance Covington is a nonprofit organization that is focused on revitalization, social and economic vitality in our downtown. And one of the things that makes Renaissance Covington a great program, in my opinion, is that we're a board-driven organization, and we are organized in a way that our board reflects a number of different groups and stakeholders in the downtown. So, residents, property owners, business owners, other organizations like the CBC, so that we're not looking at downtown revitalization from one perspective, but from many perspectives of the number of great people who serve on the board of directors.
Tell us a little bit about how Renaissance started.
Yeah, so Renaissance Covington is part of a national program. It's now called Main Street America. But, the general idea was that the National Trust for Historic Preservation realized about 40 years ago that in addition to their work on national landmarks and things like that, that they needed a programmatic way to activate historic downtowns as a method to preserve historic buildings. Just simply that the best way to preserve a historic building is to use it. And so that was where the model started. In Covington, the program started as a city program in the year 2000. So we're 17 years in to trying to rebuild our downtown after, as we all know, it sort of lost its energy and its vibrancy in the 70s and 80s.
And Renaissance Covington is the recipient of a big award, the Great American Main Street Award. And I think we have the clip, the video clip, associated with you winning the award, if we can play that.
I recall memories of parades in downtown It was packed with people. You would be shocked how rapidly our downtown declined.
From a young age, we had a lot of issues around poverty and crime. There were names like Covington that were used. You weren't proud to be from Covington. The good news is I think that's really changed. We had a reputation issue, and so starting to embrace who we are and celebrate it was one of those first things where Main Street could really help with that.
It's helped shape our board so that we could find people that had talents and interests in specific areas based on the 4 points.
So it doesn't have to be I'm passionate about Main Street, but I'm passionate about bikes, I'm passionate about art, I'm passionate about architecture, and putting them in a room, and that's where kind of the magic happens.
What's really unique about Covington is we have such a concentration of historic building stock. So much is intact from the late 1800s.
The Renaissance group has brought focus to the fact that, yes, these are assets.
They just opened new apartments called the Boone Block. They really used their imagination to figure out how to turn a building that had been many different things over a century into a 3-level living.
The hotel used to be Coppin's department store. And when you go inside, they still have displays of things that they would have had at the department store.
The idea of a 114-room boutique hotel in the middle of Covington 4 or 5 years ago was like nutty.
These places were designed successfully because they were able 120 years later to be transitioned from a department store into a boutique hotel.
Giving it this grandeur of an urban, modern hotel while still leaving much of the exterior intact so you can still really see its history.
I think there's a number of benchmarks that Renaissance Covington will look back on and say those were crucial moments, those were great moments. Separating from the city and becoming a standalone 501c3 was huge.
There were a lot of things that we wanted to do that were more risk-taking and sort of creative and out there, and being independent would allow us to do that.
It has a more personal feel, I believe. People can walk in the door, they don't feel like they're going to a governmental agency, they're going to see Katie or they're going to see Renaissance.
I think the Parklet initiative last year branded Covington as being unique.
Curbed, which was the name of the Parklet program, was really, making a statement about look what you can do in the size of a parking space.
And so it was enabled people to be engaged with each other and be on the street.
But then also took away a parking space, and then of course brought all sorts of people to the table to talk about what is the value of that, and on both sides.
Losing those parking places was not a big deal in comparison to the amount of people that it brought downtown.
We're very lucky in Covington to have a number of incubators and accelerators. When those sorts of things are happening, sort of naturally and independently, we're constantly trying to harness those into public events. We really wanted to home grow entrepreneurship. One of the ways that we tried to do that was through pop-ups.
It also then introduces these entrepreneurs to our community. So we've had several of them go on and lease space on a more permanent basis.
To see the number of people walking in Covington, young people, I have not seen that since the 60s. So excited.
Covington's reputation, it's suffered a lot for a really long time, and I think today, when people think about Covington, they think about something completely different. They think about a place where cool things are going on, their new businesses are opening, there are great events, and it's a place to be.
That's a great clip. I have to tell you, if I didn't live in Covington, I'd want to move to Covington after watching that clip. What does it mean to win the Great American Main Street Award, and why was Covington chosen?
Yeah, absolutely. We were so honored to receive that award, and it was such an exciting moment when we got the news. Essentially, the Main Street America is the national umbrella for organizations like Renaissance Covington, because Covington wasn't the only community or historic downtown that experienced a loss and is now trying to rebuild. So there are over 1,000 programs nationally that operate just like ours, and each year Main Street America chooses 3 communities to receive the Great American Main Street Award. And some of the things they look at are private and public investment, number of new businesses, number of new jobs in the downtown, how the program is activated, that we're using their approach. And also, I know from the staff at Main Street America that they really were intrigued by the amount of art and creativity that Covington has used in our approach to downtown revitalization.
And I know that's not the first time you've applied for this award. This has been a work in progress that goes well beyond a year. Tell us a little bit about that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So as an accredited Main Street program, we have a number of reporting mechanisms and accreditation and things that we have to submit to Main Street America. But several years ago, our Kentucky state coordinator said, Covington's doing really great stuff. Why don't you give this a shot? And so last year we were named the program to watch, which was like sort of the runner-up. So yeah, it's been a couple years in the works, and we were glad to take home the prize this year.
Yeah, and there are a lot of things that our audience may not know. There are a lot of things that CBC and Renaissance does in partnering together. We've both won together the Friends of Covington Beautification Award for the Planter Project with the 80 planters on Madison Avenue, and we're working on several other projects. Talk about the importance of partnering with other groups in the community in terms of creating a city of choice.
Absolutely. We have so many organizations in Covington that are civic-minded and really focused on celebrating our community and moving it forward. And I think we're at a great point in history, and maybe it's happened in the past, I'm not entirely sure, but our organizations are working so well together, from the Covington Business Council, Friends of Covington, the Catalytic Fund, the Center for Great Neighborhoods, Renaissance Covington, the city government. We're all pulling in the same direction. And so when we identify that we have similar strategic goals, the opportunity to partner is just a no-brainer, because even though we're all trying to do all of this work, we all have limited capacity, limited resources. So when we can come together to take care of a project, it's a win for everybody.
A lot of people may not know that, or hopefully they surmise that downtowns aren't created by accident. It's an awful lot of planning. And the city of Covington has what they call design standards that, and we can get into what that means in a minute, but that's an example of the partnership your organization, ours, several of the others that you mentioned, Meet NKY, South Bank Partners, several others are partnering to help to have these standards updated and revised so that we can continue to build on the great things downtown. Talk a little bit about that too, Katie.
Yeah, it goes back to the same idea. Many of these organizations, are identifying the same needs, and so we're coming together and saying, how can we address those needs? And really, it comes down to the details of the aesthetics and how we can pull our own resources to all build up into one plan for the actual physical appearance of the downtown. So that's everything from what do our street furnishings look like? How do we execute a district-based wayfinding system? How are we gonna connect the dots between our downtown and Main Strasse and the riverfront? So it's a really exciting time to be creating that system so that we can start executing right away once we're all on the same page, and so that we're not stepping on each other's toes or coming up with plans that don't all align.
Yeah, and I think the other important part of that is funding. Oftentimes the city goes down a path where they want to fund something, things happen, they run out of money. We're also talking about our organizations helping with the funding there, maybe seeking funding from a greater philanthropic support to help with that, so it works well that way as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I would add that's a critical piece to our private sector, our private developers. There are a number of different groups who are investing a lot of money, and they're looking at the public space around their developments and saying, well, how should this look? And right now there's not really a consistent plan. So we want to see, when the sidewalks are being torn up already, let's put them back together in a way that's going to make sense and that as part of a larger design.
Right. Going back to the video clip, there was the piece on the parklets there, and I wanted to get your thoughts on some of the psychology behind that in terms of getting people to fully experience the downtown, not just the walkability, but soaking it in. And I think that's one of the things that the parklets accomplished.
Yeah, I think in addition to, obviously, the different businesses and the architecture and the buildings create a real walkable environment, but so do art and installation and sculpture. And so we really just want to continue to celebrate how walkable downtown Covington is, and the parklets were able to do that, to sort of instigate that conversation around, walking a couple of blocks versus, parking right in front of a business. And that's going to play into the design standards, because I think on the forefront, on the horizon, we're going to have some hard conversations about things like bike lanes and parking, which are always, there are people on both sides of the issue, both with very valid concerns, and it all comes back to this idea of having a pedestrian-friendly downtown.
You grew up here, Katie. You and I started at about the same time in our organizations back in 2010. And I know there were times where we both felt, are things ever going to come together for Covington? And it was very personal for you because you grew up here and lived most of your life here except for college. Were there times when you wondered, is Covington, did I do the right thing? And obviously you did, but.
Well, certainly. I mean, in 2010, there were a lot of passionate people here and people with vision, but you'd look around and see some of these larger buildings that hadn't been invested in a long time, that had been sitting vacant for a long time, and just wondered, like, how is this going to happen? Like, who is going to put the money into these projects? And obviously, there's so many players that help make those projects, from Gateway to the hotel. The Catalytic Fund has been really critical in getting some of those buildings activated and redeveloped. So, yeah, I mean, it's been so exciting the past couple years to see all of the new businesses, all of the new residents, all of the new people on the street. It's been a good couple years.
You talked about the smartphone technology and all those things. What other kinds of things moving down the road can we look for from Renaissance Covington, and some of the different things you'd like to do?
Yeah, well, we're going to continue our robust series of events. Our farmers market has just grown so much over the past couple years. We have a fantastic farmers market. It's running from April through November. It's more than half of the year, every Saturday. One of the projects we're working on now that I'm really excited about is a downtown residents organization. We have neighborhood associations that are really strong in different neighborhoods all across Covington, but there's sort of a gap in that fabric where if you live in the downtown, you're not part of Mudrigatus, you're not part of Licking Riverside or Old Seminary Square. So, yeah, as we have so many new residents moving in, getting those folks organized to have a role in the continued progress of downtown is going to be exciting.
And I heard a statistic the other day about the projected growth in residents in the Covington's urban core. What is that? Do you remember that? Or okay, I'll forget that then. But looking at that as an untapped area, regardless of what the numbers are, that's an area for high potential for growth, correct?
Yeah, well, we know that with Duveneck Square and the county building in particular, as well as all of the smaller upper floor rehabs, that we have so many new people moving in, and we want to maximize their experience in Covington and keep them here in the long run. If they want to live here now in a downtown, in a loft or an apartment, then maybe they'll want to invest in the future in home ownership or staying in our community in some way or another. So getting them engaged now, being part of our future, we think is a good strategy for that.
I think the future's bright. Would you say, just in closing, any other comments about what else you're doing in Covington, what you're excited about?
I think I agree. There's every day there's more good news about what's going on downtown, who's moving in, and we're not stopping now. So.
Yeah, I think I added up the numbers the other day. There's about over $150 million in investment from the beginning, from what Gateway's done, Hotel Covington, all the way through Duveneck Square, Bradford Building, and beyond. So it is great. So, yeah. Katie, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Pat.
Yeah, that's all the time we have left today. We want to thank Katie Meyer, the Executive Director of Renaissance Covington, joining us today about their work, which culminated in winning the Great American Main Street Award earlier this year. I'm your host, Pat Frew, on Taking Care of Business. Thank you for joining us.